All right, Seamus Bruner is the author of Control Oligarchs. He investigates corruption for a living as well. He joins me now along with Dick Morris, author of Corrupt, the inside story of Biden's dark money. Gentlemen, good to have you both on. Seamus, Hunter is to be deposed on Wednesday, supposed to be deposed. It would put Hunter in a position where he either has to lie under oath or tell the truth about his father's involvement here. But you say this federal indictment changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, option C is he can plead the Fifth Amendment and say, on any advice of counsel that I'm not going to answer that question because it puts me into deeper legal jeopardy. Obviously, everybody knows about the 9 charges now, so it wouldn't be, far-fetched for him to say anything I tell you could make that situation worse. And so instead, go back to before these charges. If he pled the Fifth, that would make him look guilty. Now, if he pleads the Fifth, it's the smartest thing he can do.
Seamus, does that line with you well? I mean, the fact that this came in right before he's supposed to be deposed, I mean, he could not get out of this, out of this subpoena. There was no real way for him to get out of it. And all of a sudden, these charges come in, and it is a gift in the short term.
Well, it sure is coincidental. And, for Jake Tapper, being sarcastic about, they indicted him to, help him. Actually, that's pretty much DOJ standard operating procedure. That's why they're called slaps on the wrist. It was actually Eric Holder in the Clinton administration when he was in the DOJ who came up with this theory called the collateral consequences. And if you, prosecute someone, it could have all these bad effects. Since then, the DOJ has been handing out slaps on the wrist left and right. I mean, whether it was banks money laundering for cartels, they give them the slap on the wrist and they just pay a fine. Yeah, the gun charge was a slap on the wrist. And again, with this, it's calculated because Joe Biden can get Hunter out of any problem he has as long as it happens in the next, 14, 15 months. Dick, when Joe Biden left office in 2017, he took a job at UPenn. He brought much of his current national security team with him, including Tony Blinken. Tell us about the connection between China and UPenn.
Well, China basically put Joe Biden on its payroll and sent the future Secretary of State Blinken. This was after Biden was leaving as vice president, but before he was elected president. And he was essentially out of a job during that period. And UPenn came to him with the $54 million that they got anonymously from Chinese sources. Guess who gave it to him? And said, we would like to offer you a job for $1 million a year. They actually paid him $900,000. And in return, and you're going to head the Penn Biden Center. He never taught a class. He rarely appeared on campus, if ever. Did a few events, but nothing really. And it was basically a way to funnel money to him. And they also funneled money to Blinken, his future Secretary of State, and 9 other high-level national security people. So basically, the Biden administration was effectively on the Chinese payroll before they took office.
That's amazing. It's something else. Seamus,
by the way,
go ahead.
Never asked when the woman, I forget her first name, Gutman was her last name, was appointed ambassador to Germany, who at the time was the head of UPenn.
Right.
The senators never asked her, why did you pay this guy $1 million? And what are the anonymous sources you got money from? So he became an ambassador to Germany without disclosing any of that.
Right.
That Hunter, you got to realize that the thing they're after here is that Hunter knows all of these business deals. He was the one that, and they're desperate for him not to testify to that. And the only way he can avoid it is to take the Fifth Amendment. And this whole indictment was to set up a Fifth Amendment plea.
It makes sense. Seamus, real quick, I got 10 seconds left. You expect, Hunter maybe shows up on Wednesday and just says fifth all day long?
Yeah, well, otherwise he faces contempt of Congress charges. Yeah. And I'm glad Dick brought up that UPenn scenario because that could be one of the official actions. After UPenn got all this Chinese cash, the DOJ stopped looking into, Chinese spies within academia. That's one of the potential official actions that constitutes bribery. The other is pushing to fire the Ukrainian prosecutor. So there's enough for impeachment.
Yeah.
They not only
well said. I got it. Yeah. I got to leave it there.
The office was charged with investigating that.
Right.
He's out of business.
Yeah. Dick Morris, Seamus Bruner, thank you both so much. We appreciate it.